I am convinced that part of our corrupted nature, part of our nature, is that we have this level of impatience. We become very impatient people. And we can see this all the way back through time. The numbers of people who again and again just want to get things done. They just want it over with. They want to get past it. You just got to do it. We could do it faster. We could do it better. And you hang around people like that, and you kind of get a little impatient yourself, don't you? You start to get a little anxious, and then maybe we're not doing it fast enough, or like, even the way we see nowadays, the way so many people, they've always got some place to go that, they have to drive so much faster than everybody else. And I might be guilty of that once in a while. Sorry about that. But, it's this impatience that I think it's part of our corrupted nature that wasn't meant to be in the mind of God. It really wasn't meant to be. I think when God created us, he allowed there to be certain things within us so that we would, be able to attend to things, but he never meant it for us to be that kind of person that's always in a rush, always rushing others, always trying to get things done, always trying to get to the end of something before we even started. I mean, how many times I've taken road trips. I took a road trip and drove out to Illinois to see a friend, and it felt like from the time that I got on the road, it's like, why can't I just be there already? If I just had one of those Star Trek things, I could just stand and just appear there, it would have been so much better. But no, you have to do the 10 hours, the 12 hours, and just be patient with it and get through it and get there, because if you don't, you could end up having a terrible accident or something could go wrong. From the time I was a child, I noticed it in myself. There was always that sense that I want to just get it done. And I remember, my mother was one of those people. When you're in your own family, you have a certain kind of dynamic. And my mother was one of those people. I loved her dearly because she was teaching me certain virtues and teaching me certain things that I didn't know until much later on. Every year at Advent, she loved to do these little Advent calendars. Each day we open up another one, and look, inside of this one is a gingerbread, and look, inside of this one is a candy cane. And inevitably when you got to the 25th, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, so we'll just let that one sit. But when I was about 7 or 8 years old, the thing was on the refrigerator, so I said, I can peek ahead. And I figured I could just close them up again. Nobody's going to notice, right? I'll get away with it, won't I? Mothers have a radar like you wouldn't believe. And as soon as she saw it, she knew who did it. She knew it was me. I mean, we did it as a family. It was a nice little thing we did together around the table. And I kind of just spoiled that. And this is what I remember. I don't remember her getting angry. I don't remember her punishing me. All I remember is her looking at me with that look of disappointment and saying, I thought we were going to do this together. And that has lasted with me more than if she'd gotten upset. Because I realized that my impatience, my desire, my not wanting to wait with the family did have an impact. And it wasn't so much the calendar that was important to her. It was our time together, of our learning together, of our preparing together for Christmas. And I remember having the conversations, and I remember having little talks about what we were doing and how we were preparing and the different things that we were going to try to do each day. And it became a real good part of our family tradition to do that, because it taught me something that I wouldn't have learned elsewhere, how to be a little bit more patient, and, as the psychologists say, to learn how to delay my gratification. You've heard that expression? We have to delay our gratification. I mean, let's face it, nowadays, we want to be satisfied right away. To the point now where it's like, if you can't cook it in the microwave and have it in like a minute and a half, I don't want it. It's just going to take too long. Those of you who on Thanksgiving morning spend hours and hours and hours cooking, thank you. I don't have that kind of patience in the kitchen. And it's that kind of quality that really needs for us to be able to say no. There are certain things that we need to take our time and to focus and to make sure we're preparing well so that we're getting to the right place. And yet I think nowadays, especially as we look around our culture and we look around our society, too much has been taken away from us, and so many things have been thrown in the middle of it that I think so many of us no longer really appreciate the season of Advent. You know, they talk about this war on Christmas. I said, no, long before that, there was a war on Advent. Advent was stolen from us from so long ago, and it was an internal thing. This is not the secular culture. It was an internal thing that happened. Our family tradition was not only the little Advent calendar, but no tree ever went up in the house before December 24th. That's when it went up. And I remember on Christmas Eve decorating the tree, you know, the little tinsel, and you took little tinsel and and I want to just put 20 of them up at once. My mother, no, 1 or 2 at a time. Let's make it look nice. It's got to be even. It's got to be perfect. These family traditions really impacted me growing up. Because when I got a little bit older and the culture started to move, let's face it, the Christmas celebration went all the way back now to Halloween, I think they're saying. You know, there's no longer anything between Halloween and Christmas. It's all Christmas all the time. I was learning a very valuable lesson from my mother and my father, from my sisters, of living in a household in which, no, we're waiting for something. We're waiting for Christmas. It's not Christmas yet. And all the valuable lessons that I was able to learn in life about how sometimes being a little more patient and delaying my gratification will bring about something much, much better. And I think in my own life, it's helped me to be better at executing plans, of seeing things that need to get done and realizing this is going to take a while and it's going to take this kind of effort and this kind of planning. And, you know, like the way even my mother would plan things in the household all through December. The way my father would be doing the certain projects and tasks all through December, making sure that when we finally got there, then we could put the plan into action and have it unfold the right way. And every year when we come to Mass on the first Sunday of Advent, we're a little bit shocked. It's usually around Thanksgiving, either just before or just after. This year is like the perfect Advent year because we're going to get a full Advent. We've got now 4 full Sundays and full weeks to pray together. And so when we show up on the first Sunday of Advent, every year it's the same thing. We're confronted with this apocalyptic language. But where's the fa la la, Father? What's this? 2 are going to be in the field, 1's going to be taken, 1's going to be left. What's all of this, stay awake and be prepared? I want you to remember this weekend's gospel very carefully because this time next year, we're going to finally cycle back to where we are. We're now going to go back to the beginning of Matthew's gospel and go all the way around again. But we're starting towards the end. We're starting in chapter 24. I want you to remember these words that you heard today because the church in her wisdom has said we're going to start the liturgical year by reminding us of who we are as Christians. We're waiting for a Savior, and we have to be preparing for the coming of the Savior. And Advent has a very interesting pattern every year, no matter which cycle we're in. Every year has the same pattern. The first 2 weeks are a lot of the stay awake, be alert, get prepared. And then the second 2 weeks, we get a little bit more of that joyful expectation, a little bit more of the Holy Family, of the Blessed Mother, of getting the final preparations. We know not the day nor the hour. Now, I will say this, when it comes to waiting, I disagree with Jesus a little bit. If you could just give me the day, the time, the place, then I can start getting things ready for that moment, and I can start preparing, and I can put my plans in place so that I can do it. But he didn't do that. He didn't give us an exact day or hour. So what did he say? Stay awake. Be ready. Be patient. It will come. He will come. Christmas will still come this year. But my dear brothers and sisters, the one thing that I learned, most importantly, the one thing I learned was I wasn't meant to wait alone. When I was left alone, I started peeking at the calendar. But when we wait together, there's a little bit more hope tied into that because we can affirm one another, we can assure one another, we can embrace one another, and we can be ready with one another. And that's why I believe so truly that this coming year, we need to have a greater revival of the family. Bishops keep talking about this Eucharistic revival, and I know we need it, and we need people to fall in love with the Eucharist. But that happens through the family. The family is the first society. The family is the primary society. The family is the domestic church where faith is cultivated. The faith that I have today was cultivated in my family. It wasn't something that was dropped on me from outside. It didn't happen in the schools. It didn't happen in the culture. It started in the family. Now, thanks be to God, when I was younger, unlike the young people today, when I was younger, the society did embrace faith. Unlike today, where there's this abject rejection of faith. And so let's revive once again. First in our homes, working on our families, working on our faith together, and then here in the family of the church. First in our society at home, then in our larger Christian society here. And then, my dear brothers and sisters, once we get it strong and right here, we'll be strong enough and ready enough to go out and wait with those who aren't here, those who aren't preparing, those who aren't getting it right. They need us so badly right now. And so if we can start to get it right, we can help them get it right. And so I think about all those times in my own life when we as a family came together, when we as a family did things together, when we as a family went to church together, when we as a family prayed together. And there was joy in that. It wasn't difficult, it wasn't hard when we did it together. But a lot of things that I've tried to do on my own have become far more difficult. And so self-reliance is not what Jesus talks about. Self-indulgence is not what Christians ought to be about. From that time of Adam and Eve, that little corruption that's been in us till now, we're not here to satisfy ourselves. We're here to love others. And so take St. Paul's letter to the Romans this week and read it all week long. He had some very strong words. If you weren't paying attention, he had some pretty strong words for us. We're Christians. We don't live the way the world lives. We don't live according to the flesh. We don't live by our desires. We live for a Savior. We live for Jesus Christ. And so in these coming weeks, we have to learn that delay of gratification. With that delay of gratification, do you know what starts to come up more and more? The love for the other, the care for the other, the seeing the other in my life. And that's what family is all about. I heard a great axiom. I use it a lot at my weddings. I heard a great little axiom that we can use. Family is so important. And do you know why? Do you know why family is so important? It's because where we learn something. Family. Forget about me. I love you. And we learn that in the family. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, in this coming year, let's work on forgetting about me. I love you. And in the coming weeks, we can start that process by, in our own families, maybe starting to pray together this Advent. We have these Advent companions for Magnificat. What a great way each day, along with opening up your Advent calendar, of just reading a little passage. One family member each day can just read the little meditation that's in the booklet and maybe just pray together for the coming of Christ. Pray together as a family and support one another. Allow it to wrap up with praying for petitions, praying for the things that we're hoping for, the things that we want to see. And I believe that during Advent, I always prayed in the beginning of Advent for my presents, but at the end, I always started to pray for my family. And so maybe we can do that this Advent together as families. First families, domestic churches, then here is the larger family in the church. And so in the coming weeks, I am filled with hope and joy, for I'm gathering with my family both at home and here. God bless you.